Hi, it's Lipstick Gal. Thank you so much for watching today. I have some new makeup to try, stuff that's been piling up on my vanity, and I'm like, okay, we're getting to it today. There were a couple of things here that when I heard they were launching, I was like, yes, 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 like a little kid at Christmas, like, when can I open it? When can I open it? Is it here yet? And then other stuff that I just picked up along the way that I want to use and see if it's a good fit for me. The first thing I'm starting with is this. This is the new Glossier Stretch Fluid Foundation. They have, is it 32 shades? 34 shades? Somewhere in the 30s. And this is shade Very Light 4. For years, I have been a massive fan of their stretch concealer, and I use this all over the face. And this is the shade that I have used for years. They had 12 shades of their stretch concealer before they relaunched, and I had the shade G11. And so here, I also have a new Very Light 4 that should match the foundation, but I'm curious to see what it's like. If it's lighter, ooh, it looks, guys, I don't know. It looks a little bit darker, doesn't it? This looks a little bit darker and a little bit more peach than this. And this is just a hair dark for me. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. But I know I love the formulation of this. I'm always looking for just the right shade. And that's always my struggle with foundation products. So I'm gonna start by using some of this. Ooh, look at that. It's not runny. It is definitely thick. I mean, she's thick, she's a little bit more viscous. There is no kind of drooping or sliding. I didn't get the new brush because it looked a little gimmicky to me, and it looked like it might be hard to wash. So this foundation is described as light to medium coverage, buildable to medium coverage. It has a lot of skincare ingredients in there. I'm just gonna start dabbing this on. And it is also supposed to look very skin-like. And I'm always like, well, I'll be the judge of that, thank you. Beyond that, I think also, I don't know, I found the process of finding like the shade, we'll see if it's the right shade or not, a little confusing for me. And I'm just using my Merit #1 brush. The reason I found it confusing is I remember when they first mentioned they were launching a stretch foundation, and I love the stretch concealer so much. It's like one of my favorite concealer products. I like the texture, I like the way it sits. I was so excited about it, but I found it a little bit difficult to find, okay, if I'm currently wearing this shade, what would be the right shade? And I feel like there might be a better shade for me, and I really wanted to. In August, as I was driving back and forth to my neurosurgeon's office in Seattle. I live in Washington State, but I live 5 hours away from Seattle. I was like, I can just stop by at the Glossier Seattle store. And I was like, but do you want to end up downtown looking for parking? And so I've never been. And I think that it, you know, and this was launching or had just launched, and I did my best. I looked at everything, looked at swatches, looked at models, and I was like, maybe this is the best shade for me. And I feel like it is an okay shade. I still feel like we're not quite, this might be a little too peach, but it was either this, I feel like the fair neutral, this is like a fair peach shade, was a little too Casper the Ghostish, and then there was a fair pink and a fair warm, and the warm would have been too warm, and this one has a little bit of warmth in it. This was probably the closest. It's not the best match in my foundation wardrobe. Before I get going any farther, I'm just going to take a quick look at this. I do feel like it looks pretty good on the skin. It looks hydrated. It doesn't look like I have too much on my face. And for the everyday sort of look, if I'm not trying to like totally blank out everything, I don't mind that I have freckling or slight hyperpigmentation coming through. I feel like it makes me look like a real person. The minute I have kind of like full coverage, kind of heavy glam on, like with the full coverage foundation, it can be just a little bit too much, especially as I find that product settles into my fine lines and my creases. This is also supposed to not settle. It's not supposed to crease. It's not supposed to settle. It's supposed to be transfer resistant, sweat resistant. When I'm thinking about sweat resistant, I'm not expecting you to last through 110-degree weather, like if I'm out in the yard gardening or what have you. No. I want you to not sweat off my face if I'm doing a little bit of heavy housework, you know? If I'm scrubbing a toilet or a bathtub, I want to make sure that as I'm hunched over doing my due diligence, that if I start to perspire, I'm not going to have problems with it. And that's in an indoor air-conditioned home, but we'll see. I will have to let you know. Right now, I do like the way that it looks. I do feel like the color is not quite right. And the one thing that was nice, I was messaging Glossier on Instagram the night before the launch, and they said, hey, if you have problems, we have a really easy exchange program. Let us know, you send it back, we'll send you a different shade. So I think that this is, gonna be, depending on how it wears, gonna be a good everyday foundation for me because it's just enough, not too much. Out of sheer curiosity, this is the new Very Light number 4, and this is the old G11 Stretch Concealer. This shade here is just a hair too dark for me, but I can make it work. But I feel like this is definitely too warm, almost too orangey on my skin. I think if anything, this is gonna have to be exchanged for something else. I know if the formulation hasn't changed, love the formulation. I just need a shade that's better suited to my skin. And I am not sure if this shade here, it's Very Light 4, if Very Light 3 or Very Light 2 would be better suited. It depends on which one's warm, which one's cool, or I don't know. I'm worried that the neutral would be too Casper the Ghost, but I'll have to see. I'm gonna completely skip the stretch concealer today. I feel like I have the wrong shade, but I did pick up another concealer. This is the new one from Tower 28. This is their Swipe Serum Concealer. This is supposed to be able to provide medium coverage, to be able to hydrate as well as tackle redness, discoloration, dark circles. Yes, 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 exactly what I'm looking for. So I have the shade here, BU. I think it's the second lightest shade. I'm curious. Let's see what happens. I don't have any corrector under the eyes. All I have on right now is my skincare and the Stretch Fluid Foundation. Oops. Okay. Let's have a little redness here. I'm going to give myself just a couple of dabs on my hyperpigmentation spots. I like the consistency of this. I feel like the consistency is nice. I feel like it's radiant, that it's creamy. I'm very curious to see what it looks like under the eyes, but I'm gonna give it a minute to sit there while I pounce the rest of this in. I feel like in some areas this is really good to like buff, but I think if I want a little bit more coverage, just kind of tapping it in is really helpful. I feel like I did a really good job of covering up this hyperpigmentation spot here. It's barely visible. I have seen so many people like really, really raving about this product. Like the words run, do not walk. And I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll see. So at this point, I'm gonna tap it out to distribute color before I have it sucked up into this little brush. By the way, this is the Sydney Grace F01, one of their face brushes, the small kind of little buffing brush, which I feel is like really good for, buffing in concealer in small places on the face. And here I'm just gonna continue to tap this in. I'm so curious what sort of products, I know there's like a ton of releases right now, not just holiday stuff, because like the holiday gift sets are here, they are plentiful, they are coming out, the specific holiday releases are also coming out, but has there been anything like this concealer or the Glossier foundation or something else that has really caught your attention and you're curious about, or used like, I don't know, and you bought it? Let me know what products have been kind of catching your attention. I like the way this is sitting, and I feel like it looks really good. I'm curious as to whether it's going to, I will set it with powder. I feel like at 48, if I don't set with powder, I am kind of just begging for the product to settle into my under eye crinkles. So I'm gonna give it a light set, and I'm gonna use the Glossier Wowder because love the Wowder. I have a little bit of Glossier's Wowder on this puff, and I'm just gonna lightly tap it into my under eye area here. And then just with the rest of it, kind of lightly set like my forehead and my T-zone right in through here. I might set more of my face later, but I have something else I want to try, and I don't want to get too much powder on places where I'm gonna be using kind of like a pomade formula. I like the place that we're at right now. The next product I have been dying to get my hands on is this. This is the Danessa Myricks Groundwork Defining Neutrals Palette. Okay, when I saw this, I was like, yes. Yes to all the things. First of all, there's two different formulas in here. I haven't tried, I mean, brand new, just opened the box, haven't stuck my finger in anything, but there is like the larger pan is a pomade and the smaller pan is a powder, a coordinating powder to set. And the idea with this palette is that you can, not just eyes, but like entire face. You can bronze, you can contour, you can do a little bit of color correction if you're using this lightest shade on fair skin. I'm sure you could do something similar with that with different shades in here for richer skin tones. But it's basically an all over, like on your eyebrows, on your lips. You could use this for everything. And I was like, ooh, but Danessa Myricks always makes products that kind of pull me in, that intrigue me. And the idea of a pomade and a powder to set. The other thing that is just brilliant, there's like a little divot right here where every single one of these you can pull out. Like they're magnetic. And to me, that is like the smartest thing ever. And I'm hoping this means that these little pans are going to be, you know, you can purchase them in sets. Like I need more of the shade in desert, or I need more of the shade in sandstone. And you can get the duo and plop them in there. And then this is forever being refilled and reused. Love refillable packaging. This just seems super smart to me. And I really also, I mean, look how pretty the packaging is. It's super nice. All right, nice mirror in here too. I'm just gonna jump in because my eyebrows, they need a filling. I think I'm gonna use this shade here in Chiseled. We'll see, I might need to go with something a little bit darker. Ooh, texture is interesting. Oh my goodness. I just kind of stuck my finger in there and it feels kind of like putty-like. Oh, I like that. All right, so I have a little bit of, oh my god. Okay, I keep sticking my brush in and I feel like I'm making like footprints in fresh snow, but that's okay. This is gonna be a palette that's gonna be used. So I'm gonna pick some up on my brush and we'll see if this is a good shade match for me, and just start kind of lightly filling in the brows. I've never tried like a putty formula like this before. I feel like that might be a little light. Need something slightly deeper. All right, I'm gonna go into the shade next door, which is called Sculpted, and it's a little bit deeper. Excuse me while I pluck a few strays here. This is the first time I have kind of really done more than brush my teeth, put on deodorant and skincare since my surgery. Surgery was 12 days ago on the day that I'm filming. And I have really been keeping it very simple, very like, let's just see what happens, because I have not been feeling tip-top. But as I was getting up in here to do my eyebrows, I was like, wait, you have rogue hairs just kind of hanging out everywhere. I'm going to use this little bit more stiff but straight brush here with a little bit of powder on it to kind of go through and maybe set all of this. Feel like I've already overdone my eyebrow. This happens to me every time I try something new. I just like, ooh, what does it do? And I get like a little too much going on and it's like, whoa, Nelly, slow down. Okay, I know. My eyebrows got away from me. I was looking in the up close mirror really close, and then as I took a look back, I know. I look a little crazy. What's interesting about the textures of this is that the pomade is, I felt like I wasn't picking it up on the brush. And I don't know, I have an Anastasia, I think it's a number 12 brush. I forget the number of it. But it has kind of like stiff bristles here, spoolie on the other end. And I feel like you could see like I was jabbing it in here and I wasn't really seeing anything on the end of this. I feel like if you're using a brush like this and you're doing brows, let's say, easiest thing to do is to kind of swipe it through lightly as opposed to like digging it in there. This is not a powder. I mean, the powder is right next door, but the more putty type textures, these more velvet pomades need kind of like picking up very lightly, especially if you have a stiff brush like this. I'll wear this look today. I feel like it got away from me. And I don't know that this is the best brush for applying the powder over the top. It's just what I thought might work the best, but it's okay. We'll see how this goes, but I know, I look a little cuckoo. I do want to get like the rest of my face on, and I am going to use this chiseled shade here in this pomade. Just pick it up lightly on kind of like this little brush like this, and I'm going to use this to kind of give myself a little bit of a contour. I don't want anything too heavy, but I definitely want to use this on more than like brows and eyes. I want to see what it looks like and how it performs on the rest of the face. I'm using this smaller brush to pick up some of the powder. I feel like this is maybe a little smaller than I would like, the pan wise, to fit a brush this size. I feel like it would fit an eyeshadow brush or an eyebrow brush easily, but if you're trying to sculpt the face, I feel like the more putty type pans that are larger are easy enough to fit like a small face brush in. But if I'm wanting to set it with powder or intensify it with the powder, and maybe that's not how it's intended to be used, but this is kind of a smallish face brush anyway, but it's a really narrow, teeny tiny little pan, so I'm trying to be careful. I actually really like this shade. I've done this half of my face. I have some along the jawline. I definitely have some here in the hollows and up close to the forehead, but it's not too heavy. I feel like this is definitely, even though the shades can look a little intimidating, this is definitely working for someone like me with fair skin. So I'm gonna do the other side. Be right back. Not sure if it's a good idea. I'm gonna use the shade right next door called Mirage for just a little bit of warmth, maybe like a little bit of a bronzer situation. And I'm gonna have it go a little bit higher across the face and a slightly larger area than I was using the other shade for contour, but we'll see. I'm using a little bit of that Mirage powder on the cheeks. I might bring in kind of like a blush later, like maybe one of the Danessa Myricks Balm blushes, but I'm gonna start here and I'm gonna do the eyes next and we'll see what sort of color we want on the face. All right, so for eyes, I am super excited to dip into these. I don't have anything on my eyelids. I wanna see what these do without any primer. I wanna see how these velvet pomades sit, especially with the powder on top. I'm gonna start, I think I might start with this shade right down here called Stone. And I'm gonna use the velvet pomade. I'm gonna pick it up on kind of like a fluffy white goat hair brush and just kind of hit the crease a little bit. Now, I think what's interesting is that we're seeing a lot of these very neutral palettes. Now, this, can be used all over the face. I like the idea of that, and I'm gonna try and use it in as many places as possible today. But there's that new one from Patrick Ta, the Major Dimensions 3, which is all matte with a couple of creams in there. I really like the volume 2 that I have from Patrick Ta, but I wasn't as excited by the all mattes because I feel like I already have those shades in formulas that I love and I didn't need it from Patrick, especially at the $70 price point. But when this came out, and it was like used all over the face. And I know you could probably still use Patrick Ta eyeshadows like in multiple places on the face, but it's billed as an eyeshadow palette. This was infinitely much more intriguing to me. And it wasn't just the lower price point, it was the fact that it looks like it's gonna be refillable. It has textures that I've never seen before, these velvet pomades. It tells you can do your brows, your lips, your cheeks. And so far, like, I'm really happy with where I'm at with this. I'm gonna go into this shade here. This one's called Sculpted in the Velvet Pomade. I'll use some of the powders as well, but I wanna get some definition in the outer corner. I'm gonna use this shade here. This is Mirage. I'm gonna pick up the pomade on a brush. I want a little bit more warmth in this eye look. So I'm just gonna run some of this kind of in the crease and a little bit higher, just to warm it up. I'm so far just working in these velvet pomades. I am gonna switch over to the powders in a minute, but I definitely want to keep playing. This texture is really interesting. I like that it's building, but it's not too heavy. I'm sure, if you have Danessa's artistry skills, you could get this to be as pigmented as you want, but I like that it looks like a wash. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lightest shade here in Sandstone on the other side of this brush, and I'm going to use this kind of over the lid. I've got this small pencil brush loaded up with a kind of a warm and a cool pomade, and I'm going to run this right underneath the lower lash line. So I've got the powder from the darkest shade that I use. It's not the darkest shade in the palette, this is the darkest one that I used today, going out over this darker of the velvet pomades to set it. I'd really be curious to do an eye look with just the powders. I was really curious about the velvet pomades, so I was like, have to use, must try. But I really like the softness of the powders. They're soft, but they're not too soft. I feel like they're really nice. All right, I'm just gonna show you, I'm running into a little patchy issue here I'm not sure if that's because I'm continuing to go over the Velvet Pomade with powders too much and I disturbed the layer. Probably user error, but I'm gonna see if I can fix it, but I don't really know what's happening here. Oh, that's pretty easy. I just took a little bit of the Velvet Pomade, kind of, now this has already been set with a little bit of the setting powders that come with these pomades, but I feel like that was a little easier to fix than I would have expected. Is it perfect? No, but I feel like this is gonna take some time for me to understand the textures and what tools are best to use. Do I need natural hair? Do I need synthetic? Do I need, you know, a certain like brush shape? I don't know yet. I feel like when it comes to new products like this that are innovative as well as completely new to me, like there is a huge learning curve. I'm gonna use the shade here in Tourmaline. It's the black. I'm gonna use that to line my eyes with today. I normally don't line with black, but let's see what happens. I'm picking up, ooh, maybe that's too much, some of the pomade on this little teeny tiny Dillium Tools 762. This is a small angled brush. I'm gonna use this just to kind of get as close to my lashes as possible, as well as kind of shove it up in between my lashes where I have some natural gaps. I have this eye completely lined, and I was noticing as I was working really up close with my upper lid, trying to get a little bit of a kitten flick here, I noticed that I do have a little bit of transfer of the pomade and the powder to the lower lash line. I feel like maybe this formula isn't good for, and I didn't particularly put it in my waterline. I was just trying to get like the bottom side of my lashes and shove product up into there. So it's not like in my full waterline. There's still a lot of my waterline that doesn't have product in it. But if you don't mind darkness on your lower waterline, I think you probably would be fine with this. But since I'm always trying to make my lower waterline, like keep it flesh toned or even brighter than that, this is not staying in my upper waterline without transferring when I blink. So I don't know, we'll see. I'll take like a Q-tip and see if cleaning this out, if it sets finally and will kind of stay. But I'm feeling that it's likely that these textures, because they're a little bit softer and they're a little bit more putty-like, that they're probably not going to stay as well as like a gel pencil. But I feel like on the upper lid, it does a really nice job of lining my lashes. I don't know that it completely replaces eyeliner. Let me do the other eye and mascara. I feel like my eyebrows are not staying where I want them because the powder is just color as well as the pomade. They're not kind of staying up where I want them. I feel like this one here is especially falling down. So I'm gonna take a little clear brow gel. This is the Control Freak from NYX. And I'm just gonna lightly kind of comb through my brows. And then I'm hoping that the color from the Danessa Myricks Groundwork Palette and this will pair well together, because I don't know that, you know, since the pomades and the powders, they're color, they're not necessarily hold. So as I've been getting more and more excited about this palette, I've been watching Danessa and other artists use it on the Instagram page to, you know, brows, cheeks, eyes, lips, and I was like, lip liner. So I'm gonna take this shade here in Chiseled. I don't really have a good, I feel like my lip brushes are more lip brushes, but I want kind of like a small fluffy edge to my lip and just a little bit more color and definition. And she was using these on models also as lip colors. I was like, that's really interesting. Since this look is completely matte, I'm gonna pull out this right here. This is the Yummy Skin Blurring Blush Balm from Danessa Myricks. This is the shade Rosé and Brunch. And you can use this anywhere on the face, but I think that, okay, I'm going for the brighter one because I feel like I need just a little bit more color as well. This was a really fun face of makeup. I feel like it's kind of what I expected it to be, with kind of like a matte but very neutral eye. I like the sculpting and the bronzing I was able to do. I also did throw on just a little bit of blush on the cheeks as I was dabbing some onto the lips. I don't know that I'm in love with this like idea of a lip liner, and maybe I just need to keep trying it and maybe find the right brush. I feel like I'm not getting the definition, but I am less of a blurry lip person the older I get. I feel like it naturally goes there. I want it to start out a little crisper, But I feel like overall, like aside from the really scary dark heavy eyebrows, I kind of really like it. I feel like this foundation has potential to be really good. I really like the way this feels on the skin, but I'm curious to see what it wears like, and I'm really disappointed. This is so much darker than the foundation. Like, I did some swatches and I was like, wait, what? Let me show you. So here is the foundation in a very light 4, and here is the concealer in very light 4. I feel like this is significantly lighter and this is a little bit darker. And if the foundation oxidizes, great, but wouldn't this oxidize as well? I'm not sure that these are close enough for me, and I know this concealer is too dark for my face. I would look like I'm painting on a shade darker than I naturally am. So I'm gonna see if I can exchange this through Glossier. I feel like the foundation works. I'm not sure if it's gonna work in the winter time. It might be too dark, but we'll see. I like the way that it looks on the face. It looks very natural, skin-like, not too heavy. And this concealer, oh my goodness, covered up my hyperpigmentation, my redness. It looks really good, but it doesn't look heavy either. For not wearing any corrector, I feel like it's doing a pretty good job. And I don't see, you know, any of this like settling into my fine lines here. I do have a little bit of it settling into the under eye area, and I'm not sure whether it would do better with a different powder. Maybe I'll try this with something else, but so far I'm not mad at the way this turned out. I actually think it looks really pretty. Let me know what products have been calling to you, like new products that you're like, ooh, that's so intriguing, or what products you're like, no, that's just not for me. Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have an incredible day, and I will see you again soon.